At 4 a.m. UTC on March 12, 2026, NASA's instruments recorded something that should not exist. Not a glitch, not a misreading. A confirmed, verified, triple-agency observation that breaks the most fundamental law in all of physics. And the object responsible is barely 5 kilometers wide. What I am about to walk you through is not science fiction. Every number, every data point, every agency mentioned in this video is real. And by the time you finish watching, you will understand why some of the brightest minds on Earth are not sleeping tonight. The object is called 3I Atlas. It was picked up moving through our solar system at 44 kilometers per second. And as of this morning, time near it is running exactly 120 seconds slower than it is here on Earth. 2 full minutes. That single measurement is enough to overturn a century of physics. To produce a 2-minute time lag through gravitational time dilation, you would normally require the pull of a collapsed stellar core, an object with a mass 10 million times greater than our Sunday, but 3I Atlas has the mass of a mountain. It is, by every physical calculation we have, a snowball. Yet it is warping spacetime the way a black hole does. When the telemetry first arrived at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the immediate assumption was a software error in the Deep Space Network receivers. That is the rational, grounded scientific response. But the verification logs told a different story entirely. The signal wasn't just late, it was stretched. The wavelengths were redshifted in a pattern that perfectly mirrors extreme gravitational lensing, the kind you only see near the most massive objects in the universe. Except there is no massive object there. There is nothing there, and that is the detail that is keeping physicists at Caltech and MIT awake. Here is what makes this observation truly alarming. In physics, there is a rule that has never been broken. Nature does not bend spacetime without mass. Mass is the cause, curvature is the effect. Remove the mass, and the curvature disappears. That is not a theory, it is the foundation of general relativity, tested and confirmed for over 100 years. Yet the field around 3I Atlas is curving space and slowing time with no mass to justify it. Either our understanding of the universe contains a gap so vast we never noticed it, or, and this is the alternative now being discussed in research corridors at MIT and Caltech, this object is not natural, because nature does not violate its own laws. Only technology does. The distortion field surrounding 3I Atlas is not static. In the 12 hours before this recording, the time lag grew from 120 seconds to 124 seconds. It is intensifying. Using the latest orbital parameters, if this expansion continues at its current rate, the consequences at perihelion will not be a few lost minutes on a clock. We will be looking at a structural tear in the causal fabric of our solar system, a region of space where cause and effect no longer operate on the same timeline as the rest of the planets. This is not a theoretical exercise. This is a documented, accelerating crisis unfolding in real time. And to understand exactly why the scientific community is in quiet panic, we need to go back to where this story actually began, back to December 19, 2025, when 3I Atlas was first spotted, and nobody gave it a second thought. When Pan-STARRS astronomers in Hawaii first logged the object, the classification was completely routine. It was designated a hyperbolic comet, the kind of icy, low-density body on an outward escape trajectory that observatories catalog dozens of times per year. Its speed, magnitude, and orbital path all fit the standard model without exception. Much like Oumuamua before it, 3I Atlas looked like just another interstellar visitor passing through. Unremarkable and forgettable. Every assumption pointed to a rock. Every model confirmed it. And then January 14, 2026 arrived and every assumption shattered simultaneously. On January 14, 2026, NASA's Deep Space Network fired a standard radar ping from the Goldstone complex in California, aimed at refining the orbital path of 3I Atlas. The object was sitting at roughly 2.1 astronomical units away. The physics of the return trip were simple. Distance divided by the speed of light gives you exactly 34 minutes and 12 seconds. That number doesn't require debate. It is arithmetic. The signal should have come back at 34 minutes and 12 seconds. Instead it came back at 34 minutes and 12.04 seconds, a delay of 0.04 of a second. To most people, that gap sounds meaningless. It is shorter than a single heartbeat. But in astrophysics, where spacecraft trajectories are calculated to within millimeters, a 0.004 second discrepancy is not a rounding error, it is a catastrophe. It means one of two things. Either the object was not where our models said it should be, or the signal itself was slowed down in transit. And that second possibility opens a door that physicists are deeply uncomfortable walking through. Light does not slow down in a vacuum. That is not a guideline, it is a physical constant. The only mechanism that can make light appear to slow, by stretching the path it travels, is gravity. Extreme gravity. The phenomenon is called the Shapiro delay, and it occurs near objects of enormous mass, the Sun, Jupiter, neutron stars. Not a 5-kilometer comet drifting through open space with negligible gravitational influence. The Goldstone team did exactly what any rigorous scientific team would do. They recalibrated, they reset the clocks, checked for atmospheric interference, verified every instrument in the chain. Then they pinged 3I Atlas again on January 16th. The delay had grown from 0.04 seconds to 0.18 seconds, a more than fourfold increase in just 2 days. That is the moment quiet alarm became genuine urgency. NASA reached out to the European Space Agency and requested an independent astrometric observation using the Gaia spacecraft. Critically, they did not tell ESA what to look for. They simply asked for a high-precision positional fix on the object as of February 2, 2026. When ESA reported back, the data sent to JPL was chilling in its implications. Gaia had not merely confirmed a timing delay, it had detected a positional distortion. The stars visible behind 3I Atlas were in the wrong place. Their light was being bent around the object, as though something massive were sitting between them and us. Then on February 15th, the Atacama Large Millimeter, Sub-Millimeter Array in Chile, ALMA, turned its full sensitivity toward the region. ALMA reads the universe in radio waves and can detect gas clouds, dust halos, dark matter structures, and dense, stellar companions that optical instruments would miss entirely. What ALMA found in the space around 3I Atlas was nothing, a vacuum, no gas cloud, no hidden neutron star, no dark matter concentration, empty space producing the gravitational signature of a small planet. That is the triple source validation that has stunned the research community. 3 independent agencies, 3 completely different detection methods, radar timing, optical astrometry, and radio spectroscopy, all confirming the same physically impossible conclusion. Spacetime is curving around an object that has no right to curve it. Think of it this way. Place a bowling ball on a trampoline and the fabric dips. That is gravity at work. Now lift the bowling ball away but the dip stays. That persistent, sourceless depression is exactly what we are observing around 3I Atlas. Ghost gravity. A curvature in the fabric of spacetime with no physical origin. And by March 1st, the time delay had climbed to 30 seconds. Then the growth curve went exponential. Between March 1st and March 12th alone, 11 days, the delay rocketed from 30 seconds to 120 seconds. The field is not staying contained to the object. A sphere of distorted spacetime roughly 10,000 kilometers wide is now running on a different clock than the rest of the solar system. And when physicists examined the theoretical shape of this distortion, they recognized the profile immediately. It matched the expansion signature of something once considered purely mathematical, an Alcubierre warp metric. In 1994, physicist Miguel Alcubierre proposed a model for faster-than-light travel that didn't require breaking physics, it required bending it. His concept involved contracting spacetime in front of a craft and expanding it behind, creating a wave that the vessel rides without technically moving through space at all. Inside the bubble, time flows normally. Outside it, the universe experiences extreme distortions, exactly the kind we are now measuring around 3I Atlas. But the Gaia data added one more layer that took this from strange to structurally inexplicable. The light bending around the object was not curving inward, the way a gravitational lens should. It was bending outward, being actively pushed away from the center before reaching our detectors. That is the signature of negative energy density. Exotic matter. The same theoretical ingredient required to sustain a wormhole or a warp drive. Here is where the contradiction deepens into something genuinely baffling. Near negative mass, time should accelerate. Objects with negative energy density repel rather than attract, and the relativistic effect should push local clocks forward, not backward. Yet the clocks near 3I Atlas are running slow. What we are witnessing appears to be a structured combination, the time-slowing behavior of extreme positive mass operating simultaneously alongside the light-repelling behavior of negative mass. In theoretical physics, the only framework that produces that specific combination is a controlled, engineered spacetime metric, a bubble with deliberate geometry. And then, 48 hours ago, spectroscopic data from the Keck Observatory in Hawaii delivered the piece that locked it all into place. The leading edge of 3I Atlas shows a precise blue shift of 0.04 nanometers. The trailing edge shows a redshift of exactly 0.04 nanometers. Symmetrical, uniform, perfectly aligned with the object's direction of travel. Natural comets do not produce symmetrical spectral distortions. Comet outgassing is chaotic by nature. Gas jets fire randomly, pushing the body left, right, spinning it unpredictably. The distortion field around 3I Atlas is geometrically perfect and directionally locked. It is creating a wave in spacetime and riding it. To generate a warp bubble of even this modest scale, the energy required would equal the entire mass energy of the planet Jupiter. 3I Atlas is tiny. So where is that energy originating? There are only two physically coherent explanations, and neither is comfortable. The first is that the object is secretly far more massive than its trajectory suggests, perhaps a primordial black hole wearing a comet's appearance. But if that were true, its gravitational influence would have visibly disturbed Mars when it passed through that region last month. Mars remains in its normal orbit, so hidden mass is not the answer. The second possibility is that this object is extracting energy directly from the quantum vacuum, drawing zero-point energy from the fabric of empty space itself to sustain the distortion. That possibility is deeply unsettling, because it would require a level of technological mastery millions of years beyond anything humanity has ever conceived. Then, at 18 UTC on March 11th, the distortion field changed shape. It stopped being spherical and stretched into an ellipse along the axis of travel, a geometric shift that in physics indicates acceleration. JPL's orbital data confirmed it immediately. 3I Atlas had increased its velocity by 1.2 kilometers per second. With no exhaust, no expelled propellant, no reaction mass of any kind. Newton's third law has governed every rocket ever built for every action, an equal and opposite reaction. You throw mass backward, the craft moves forward. But 3I Atlas threw nothing backward. It simply accelerated by pushing against the structure of spacetime itself. That violates the conservation of momentum. It contradicts the standard model of particle physics. It overturns principles taught in the first week of university physics. The only theoretical framework that permits this kind of motion exists in the deepest, most abstract corners of string theory. Under the name metric engineering, the conversion of temporal flow into kinetic energy. The object is, in the most literal physical sense, spending time to purchase speed. Until this week, that concept lived exclusively in mathematical papers that most physicists considered untestable fiction. The 1-2-0-second lag has made it observational reality. And the story does not end there, because the time dilation itself revealed something even more disturbing. The time dilation field around 3I Atlas is not steady, it pulses. Every 14 minutes and 22 seconds, the time lag spikes from 120 seconds to 125 seconds, then returns to baseline with metronomic precision. That rhythm is not something nature produces. Pulsars rotate in milliseconds. Variable stars shift over days or weeks. No known natural phenomenon operates on a 1-4-minute precision cycle. In engineering, that kind of interval is called a duty cycle, the rhythm of a system managing power load, cycling between peak output and recovery, possibly to regulate heat or structural stability. We are not watching a comet. We are watching an engine breathe. And at the peak of each pulse, the gravitational lensing around the object intensifies so severely that background stars do not simply shift position, they vanish. The light bends so sharply it misses Earth entirely. For exactly 3 seconds every 14 minutes, 3I Atlas generates a perfect ring of absolute darkness around itself. An event horizon that blinks on a schedule. I have devoted my career to searching for evidence of advanced physics operating in the universe. I expected to find it in the cosmic microwave background, or encoded in the collision of neutron stars in distant galaxies. I did not expect to find it moving through our own solar system on a trajectory that brings it within 0.8 astronomical units of Earth. What we are witnessing is a rewriting of local physical reality, an object operating entirely outside the laws that govern everything else in the solar system. And if you believe a 2-minute time lag is the most alarming data point in this story, what came next will change that assessment entirely. At 22:45 UTC on March 11th, NASA's Deep Space Network station in Canberra, Australia detected a signal originating from inside the time dilation bubble. Let that register fully. We did not send a signal, we received one. It arrived as a narrowband transmission at 1.42 GHz, the hydrogen line frequency, the precise channel SETI has been monitoring for 60 years because of its universal physical significance. It was not random noise. It was structured, digital, and internally consistent. But the detail that defeats every natural explanation is this. The signal was time, compressed. Because time runs slower inside the bubble, any transmission escaping outward should arrive stretched and redshifted, drawn out by the dilation. This signal arrived compressed by a factor of 120. To transmit a pre-compensated, time-corrected signal out of a slow time field, you must first calculate the precise degree of local time distortion, then deliberately invert the compression before broadcasting. That is not a process nature performs. It requires measurement. It requires calculation. It requires intent. When the JPL team decompressed the signal, what they found was not a prime number sequence or a mathematical constant. It was a rebroadcast of our own radar ping from January 14th, the very signal that first revealed the anomaly. But with one deliberate modification, the timestamp embedded in the metadata had been corrected. Whatever transmitted that signal had taken our ping, identified the timing error caused by the dilation field, adjusted the timestamp to reflect accurate time, and sent it back to us. The message, in purely mathematical terms, was this. We know your clock is wrong, here is the correct reading. When an unknown object corrects your physics and hands you an adjusted timestamp, the category of comet no longer applies. You are in communication with an intelligence that understands general relativity at a level that exceeds our own. So, here is where everything stands. 3. I-Atlas is generating a time dilation bubble, carrying the energy signature of a collapsing star. Its distortion field pulses on a 1-4-minute mechanical cycle. NASA, ESA, and 3 independent observatories have confirmed the anomaly through 3 separate detection methods. The object accelerated without propellant, and it sent back a signal that corrected our own data. None of this is speculative. All of it is documented within the past 72 hours. The one question NASA's briefing yesterday carefully avoided is whether the bubble is stable or still expanding, because that answer determines everything. If it is stable, 3I Atlas is a passing probe from a civilization that mastered exotic matter propulsion long ago. If it is expanding, and the jump from 30 seconds to 120 seconds in 11 days strongly suggests, it is then every GPS satellite, every financial network, every communication system on Earth that depends on nanosecond timing precision becomes vulnerable. In less than 48 hours, 3I Atlas crosses the orbit of Mars. That is the threshold. If the time lag increases at that crossing, we will know the field is growing without limit. The telescopes are locked on, the detectors are live, the data is streaming in real time. Whatever 3I Atlas truly is, we are 38 hours from the moment that changes everything, and you deserve to be watching when it does. If this video gave you something to think about, share it with someone who needs to know. Subscribe so you don't miss the Mars crossing update. Drop your thoughts in the comments, because right now, the most important conversation happening on this planet is the one about what is heading toward it.